Hello there. Welcome back to Empower Your Soul. I want to talk today about the rules of mediumship. This one is a little bit of a hot button topic for me. And then while I was considering how to talk about this in the podcast, Spirit, like always, gave me like a giant smackdown and really made me think differently about the rules of mediumship. So this was all spawned by my mentee asking me a question in a group class that we had that she essentially wanted to post more on social media, but she wants to be respectful of the rules of mediumship. So she asked me, how do I share more about mediumship on social media? And how does she make sure that she's respecting the practice in doing so? And this was actually like a really good question. I have to be honest with you. She comes from a place of high integrity. And so she's showcasing that even asking this question before sharing things on social media. So that speaks volumes to my mentee and her integrity and how she respects this work. Knowing all of this about her, my instinct and response was to laugh, give a little chuckle, and highlight to her there are no rules in this work. Now, it is interesting, right, that was my first reaction because of who was asking the question. But I can't tell you that on a podcast because there is so many different perspectives and dynamics to this question, because I wanted to break it down for all of you. Because when my initial response is there are no rules, I don't know if that's entirely true. And so let's get into that, because literally the next day, I volunteered to participate in a free demonstration for a woman that I have worked with, trained with for a few years now. I highly respect her. I know she, again, has respect for the work, very high integrity as well. And so she asked me to participate in this free demonstration. I graciously agreed. On a Sunday afternoon. I'm not going to go there because it's my weekend times are gold, everybody. Like, just so you all know, if you don't hear from me, if I don't respond to emails, respond to social media on the weekends, I have deemed that spirit-free zone because I need that mental break. So the fact that I signed up for this on the weekend, I think speaks volumes to how much I respect this woman, because if anyone else asked, I would have said no immediately. So before a few days before this event, she sends all of the mediums that are participating, there's 6 of us, I believe, not just an email about the logistics, what to expect, what's the timing, who's going in the right order, but she also sends us a list of expectations for the mediums, essentially rules that we need to follow for this event. Now, let me give you my initial response before I even read the email. I read like the first few sentences, and it was a giant eye roll moment. I was, to be honest with you, pissed off and livid. Like my ego came in hot and heavy because if you know me at all, if you've worked with me at all, the number one thing that people tell me and compliment me on is my integrity in the work, my integrity. And so that came in and felt like a blindside, super rude thing to say, because if you have to say it, that means there's a problem, right? And so it was just really interesting to me that my first reaction was to be so offended and so upset at this email, essentially stating the rules of the demonstration. Now, I had to get my ego in check. I had to use a few of the tools from our Sacred Roots program, the nervous system rebalancing program, and I had to like step away, take a deep breath, calm my energy, and realize that this is not about me, because I'm sure, like every other sign or ridiculous email you say, something probably happened at some point which prompted this email to go out to everybody so that no one was excluded from the disclaimer in the rules. And so I knew to swallow my pride, and I knew that there was probably a reason. At some point, there was probably a medium that she didn't enjoy maybe having in this demonstration that didn't follow the sacred rules of working with spirit. And so she had to send this out. So I swallowed my pride and I finally read it. And it was just really interesting to read her rules in terms of mediumship demonstration, because when I think of rules, I think of ethics. But she truly, and she's not alone in this. So this isn't just about this individual person, because I think that this was very representative of what a lot of mediums think are the rules of mediumship. So I'm gonna kind of skim through her email really quick and give you some of the rules that she gave in this demonstration. So let me see. So first off, because it is a demonstration with multiple mediums, she does indicate no piggybacking. So essentially, like, if someone was in front of me, going before me, my job, I don't want to pick up on the spirit that just came before me. I wouldn't say that's a rule, but I would say that's probably not ethical, and it's probably a little snarky to the medium that comes before us. So I do agree with this one, and it does happen, and I have seen it happen, and I've personally piggybacked before. Not Did not take over, do another reading, but I said, hey, I followed up with what somebody did before me, and I was like, oh my gosh, they knitted blankets, right? Because I could see that the grandmother that the previous medium was just reading literally put a blanket around my shoulders because I was cold. So I wanted to give that, and then I moved on to the next spirit. But piggybacking is a real thing, and that can hurt the integrity of the medium that comes before you if you do a better job than they do. So needless to say, I can completely understand that one. That one makes sense to me. But then she indicates that we work with integrity. I agree with this one, kind of not. She follows up with, if the spirit communicator, I hope she doesn't listen to this and gets pissed at me, everybody. I'm so sorry. If it's you, please know that this is more educational. I know you'll appreciate that. She indicates that if you've read that sitter before, and if you've read that spirit before, that you say so, you state it in front of the audience, which I think is okay. All right. I mean, I don't know if I agree with that one personally, but I like that she says if this happens, she expects spirit to give us new evidence. And I completely agree with that. And I think that's why I'm hesitating there. So she has that one in there, which is interesting. And then she indicates that we avoid negativity, we avoid foul language, we don't overemphasize how the spirit passed. We don't provide any details that will be offensive. We use common sense. We use ethics. We focus on facts. We focus on essence. And we are mindful of people's feelings and boundaries. We are careful of the words we choose. And we state facts. We state, I know, I feel, I sense. And we don't say, I guess, I think. She also says to make sure that the sitters are saying yes, no, I don't know, maybe to every single response. I'll keep going. There's more. We don't go psychic. Let me see what else is there. If we go psychic, we state it. We need to stay in the mediumship vibration. We need to check with our recipients after each statement for validation. And then she says, all of this information already. What is really interesting is, I think I know all of this. I'm aware. Nothing that she said is too much for me. I guess I'll say it that way, but I don't know if I've ever really put to words all of the different rules, requirements, expectations of mediumship, because me personally, I trust spirit inherently. And I've told you this in other podcast episodes too. I trust that spirit is 100% going to bring through the right evidence for the right person. They're going to avoid topics that don't need to be discussed in a public forum. They won't cover topics that will be controversial, upsetting. And so it's just really interesting to me, because I think what she states as the rules of the medium, this is maybe me being a Nicole. It's going to be a new phrase. It's not being Karen, it's being a Nicole on here. Being a Nicole and saying, I don't take those requirements. I give them to spirit. Like I literally take them and I throw them over the spiritual wall and I say, you're responsible for that. You are responsible for making sure I'm not bringing on topics that are unethical. I'm not saying things that upset people. I'm not using language that upsets people. And so it's just really, I really liked it because I think at the beginning of my journey, this list honestly would have been very, very helpful because you are still working on a very deep connection with spirit. You are still taking and interpreting and probably maybe putting some of your own words to what you're saying. And so a lot of this stuff I think is very relevant in terms of the rules and let me phrase it because it's not rules. These are best practices from spirit. And so I really, even though I'm kind of like getting very critical on this list, I do think it's a very good list and baseline and best practice. However, I also see rules as a little bit controlling. And let me rephrase what I mean by that. My initial reaction is to say it feels very controlling. It feels very masculine. It feels very black and white. And because I think there are some basic things that we need to, or ways we need to address or bring in our spirit communicator to be very respectful. But at the same time, I don't want to inhibit a medium's ability to bring in their personality in this session. Like allow spirit to showcase who they were, because if she says no foul language and I'm bringing in some of my, like, let's just give my departed family members, they swear like sailors. Okay. And that is evidence. Okay. And so I think there's this difference of respecting the work versus staying true to the essence of the medium of the spirit. And I will go toe to toe with anybody who thinks that we should avoid foul language in this work. And obviously if you don't like it, you're not listening. So I know you're all cool with it because I swear like a sailor around here too, because I think there are some things that maybe aren't rules or best practices, but it's more, it's more Puritan based, right? In our, like, we need to be pure. We can't swear. We can't talk about sex. We can't talk about affairs, right? And like, I'll tell you what, I have spirits that come through that are very dirty, everybody. Like they talk about sex, right? They talk about how much they love somebody's thighs, right? Like they do, because these are souls. And if we're talking to spouses, significant others that have passed, like they talk about it. I don't ask. But honestly, when it does happen, which doesn't happen very often because I as the medium am very uncomfortable when things like that come through. I'll be totally honest with all of you. But when they do come through, there is a component of significant evidence with that my client always says, oh my God, yes. Like I'm pretty sure I told a client, I was like, he's talking about how amazing your ass is right now. And so my client was like, yeah, that's definitely him. Right? And so I think there is these rules that are in place for a reason, I think, to hold the medium accountable to the highest integrity and ethics of the work. And I would agree that that is very important, but I will not sacrifice or dumb down the spirit connection because somebody believes that it's uncomfortable or that it is not what we should talk about. It's not polite, because I think those are two very different things, because we're taking a very personal connection between our sitters and the spirit, a very personal connection, and we are the conduit to deliver that very personal connection. And life is not always sunshine and rainbows. Life is not PG or PG-13. And a lot of the biggest evidence comes from the things that people don't know, and those tend to be rated R, everybody. So although I do agree with, because my amazing friend who hosts this event, because it's her reputation on the line, because she doesn't know who's coming. There was 6 mediums and I think 60 other people that were on the line that day, because the volume of people who, I'm going to say, could be offended. I understand it. And I don't think I would talk or say certain things in that forum anyway. And I would trust that spirit would not come through talking about, you know, the goods that somebody has, right? Because it's not the time or the place. One-on-one, sure, great. And so it is really interesting to me because I think there are some rules to this work, but I don't like to spell out a lot of the specifics because I think that there's different rules for different situations. And I honestly don't agree with the sitter always responding with yes, no, I don't know, maybe, because I feel like you're there again for the human connection. You're the human to soul connection. And so you're by making your sitter respond with yes, no, I don't know, maybe, you're taking the emotion out of these readings. And like, to be fair, don't feed the medium. Like, don't tell me more. Don't give me more than I've given you. Like, just validate what I've said. Or if you want to tell the story about what I've said, that's great. I love that because you are reminiscing, you're connecting. When you think of these positive experiences, moments, and you're validating them and you're reminiscing with me about them, that actually raises the vibration and makes the reading so much better. And the reading is for, I know I say it's for the spirit all the time. It's for the client too. And it's for healing. And so a lot of sitters need to be seen, need to be validated, need to be heard because they've gone through traumatic events. And so, no, I don't agree with a lot of the rules because I think in the face of trauma, a lot of stuff goes out the window. A lot of what we think are polite things go out the window because grief is raw, right? Grief is a literal takedown of your entire body, your mind, your emotions, your hormones, like your whole body responds to grief. And what what the dumbing down does is keeps it in the mind. And I want a whole body healing experience for my clients. So let's cry. Let's bring out the emotions. Let's sob. Let's relieve the tension that exists everywhere in your body by bringing through the connection, the words, the phrases, the emotions that are going to be most healing for you. And so I understand inherently, this is my problem as a Libra, is I can see all sides. I can understand why my friend would send this out, and I can understand why a lot of mediums, professionals would follow these rules. And hopefully you will understand why I break those rules after listening to me today. But that being said, I'm not going to end it there because the spiritual slap that always happens to me with my team is as I'm writing down my notes, thinking about the rules of mediumship and processing this email about being pissed off about it, about understanding her perspective, understanding that, you know, she's inherently somebody who likes rules anyway. So to be honest, I'm not very surprised. And again, not her. There's a lot of mediums that are like this. What I heard when I was about to shut down my notes and move on to the next podcast idea is I heard the Hippocratic Oath. And that made me go, huh. And so what I ended up doing was Googling the Hippocratic Oath that doctors take, right? And it was really interesting because I want to take this idea of the Hippocratic Oath and I want to put it into a mediumship perspective. So I hope you don't mind. I little bit of chat GPT this, channeled my team for this a little bit too. And I said, could we rewrite the Hippocratic Oath to be all about mediumship and what I think are not necessarily the rules, but the ethics of this work? And so here you go. Here is our mediumship oath, everybody. I swear by the Great Spirit, by the guides and guardians who walk with me, by the ancestors and the sacred keepers of truth, and I take to witness all that is seen and unseen, that I will keep this oath and covenant to the best of my ability and judgment. I will honor with reverence those who have taught me this sacred art, provided they walk with integrity, uphold high moral conduct, and serve without arrogance. That one might be tough for me, everybody. Just kidding. Just kidding. I will share what I have learned with those who feel called to work and walk on this path, provided they are ready in spirit and pure in intent. I will serve spirit to the best of my ability and will not take my access to the spirit world lightly. I will welcome only those who come in truth and love, and I will honor the trust placed in me to carry these messages with clarity and integrity. I will hold my work in reverence, remembering always that I am but a bridge between worlds and that my role is to serve the highest good. I will never twist the messages of spirit for vanity, gain, or power, nor will I offer false counsel to please the ears of the living. I will speak only of what is true as I receive it, resisting the temptation to embellish for effect. I will recognize that each time I work with spirit, there is something for me to learn, and I will carry those lessons forward. I will maintain confidentiality and privacy where it is appropriate to do so, safeguarding the sacred trust between myself, spirit, and those I serve. I will strive to keep my own spirit, mind, and body in harmony, tending to my well-being so that I may be a clear and faithful vessel. I will seek counsel and continuous growth, cleansing my ego and sharpening my discernment, that I may hear truly and deliver with compassion. In moments of recognition, I will remember that the honor belongs to spirit and not myself. May those I serve find healing, clarity, and peace, and may our time together honor both the living and the departed. Should I fulfill this oath and not transgress it, may the blessings of spirit and the joy of right work be mine, honored in this life and remembered in the next. Should I fail at this oath, may my connection between myself and my spirit grow dim until I return to the path in humility and truth. How's that, everybody? I think that covers all the bases of what I think are the right things to do, the best practices, and the ethics of mediumship. I don't have any other words to say, so I'm going to end it here. There is my mediumship oath. Enjoy, everybody. Take care.